In the last few weeks, I've canceled $1,200 a year in software subscriptions. Not because I found cheaper tools, which would be cool, but because I built the replacements myself. I built three of them, and I'm going to tell you about two more. And I'm not a backend developer. I'm just me. I'm Erika, the founder of AI Queens. And today I'm going to walk you through 5 things that I built during the Fable 5 preview for Claude, exactly what each one replaced, and the one mindset shift that made it all possible. Now, quick thing before we dive in. If any part of this makes you go, okay, cool, but I have no idea where to start, that's exactly why I run the AI Queens Build-a-thon. It's a live hands-on workshop where we don't just talk about building, you're actually going to walk out with a custom tool that's live and running for your business. You can join me virtually, or if you're local, I do also do these programs here in Tampa Bay. Link is in the show notes, or you can head over to aiqueens.com/build to see when the next one is and to sign up. So spots are limited and go grab yours now. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to the AI Queens podcast, the show where women entrepreneurs learn to ditch the overwhelm, embrace AI, and build businesses fit for royalty. I'm Erika Stanley, your host and tech expert, here to deliver tools, tips, and actionable strategies to help you scale smarter. Let's get to it. First of all, what are we even talking about here? Fable 5 from Claude. It dropped as a preview, and you might have heard there was a little bit of controversy about Fable and the version that came before that kind of jailbroke and hacked itself. Claude dropped it as a preview, and I I want you all to understand why it changed what people could build. Now, other AI tools, they kind of needed you to hold their hand a little bit. Like you had to have a decent idea of what you wanted to build and kind of some of the steps, like do this, then this, let's check that, which means you already kind of had to have an idea of how you wanted to build the thing in order to get help building the thing, if that makes sense, which is like if you kind of know what you're doing, which I do, I know just enough to be dangerous, is fine. But if you're just starting out, it's not super helpful. Fable 5, on the other hand, it works differently. You give it the goal, tell it what the end product, what good looks like, and then you let it figure out how to get there. And it's a really big shift. And I want to say that again because it's a huge mistake that I saw people making as they were talking about what they were building with Fable 5 on Instagram, on TikTok. And I kept seeing this mistake over and over again. It made me want to scream. Don't tell it how to do its job. Instead, give it a goal. Don't give it the instructions. The second you start micromanaging it, you're capping it at your own knowledge, and it is so much stronger than that. So give it a goal, let it run. For me, while they were doing the preview, which only lasted a few weeks, I got a little unhinged. Now, I'm a max user, so I'm on the $100 a month plan. So I actually still have access, but I didn't know that at the time. They gave it to us, gave us a deadline and said, hey, you can have it until this date. Then on that date, they said, oh, well, now you can have it for a few more weeks. And they kept pulling it back. So I genuinely thought that I just had a few week window before this thing disappeared, just like everyone else. So I went on an absolute mad dash to build as much as I possibly could. And luckily, I didn't have any huge active client projects at the time. So it ended up being okay. This is kind of the best accident that's happened in my business this year. Before I talk about what I built, I have to give credit where credit's due. So those of you who listen to this podcast might remember I had a guest named Vanessa Chang, and she built a Claude skill that can take your messy brain dump ideas, like kind of the way that you would actually describe your idea, your crazy idea out loud to a friend. And it turns that into a genuinely great Fable 5 prompt. I am going to put the link to that skill in the show notes. I highly recommend you go get it. Now, I want to explain a little bit about why this matters so much. Because if you're anything like me, you don't have a problem having ideas. I have a ton of them. I have a notes file full of ideas. Where a lot of us get tripped up is in translating those ideas to something that AI can understand and work with. And AI is really good at like chatting back and forth and helping you kind of get around and over, like through your ideas and plans. But sometimes it can get bogged down and sometimes it can drift a little bit. It's not the ideas where you have the problem, right? Like you know what you want. You just might not know how to say it in a way that allows the AI to run with it. So that's what Vanessa's skill, that's the gap that it closes. So brain dump in, structured prompt out, and then you'll start a new chat window and switch over from, if you're using Sonnet or Opus or whatever, you'll brain dump in and then take that prompt, start a new chat, and go into Fable and let it figure out the how. That's the start of the workflow. All right, let's move into the 5 things that I built while I had access to the Fable 5 preview. First, I rebuilt the Mile End Digital website. Now, when I first launched my business, I decided that I wanted to build on Webflow. Now, I have been building on WordPress for years. I'm a WordPress native. I have since shifted over into Squarespace because that is the easiest thing for my clients to be able to manage after I hand over the project. But I was all gung-ho on Webflow when I started out. And so I built my agency website on Webflow. It's not super user-friendly for most of my clients to be able to manage their own websites. So I don't have any other client websites on Webflow besides my own. And it was costing me almost $400 a year in hosting. And Webflow is a really good product. This is not a Webflow hate video, but I feel like I was paying $400 a year for a tool that did more than I needed. And so I used Fable 5 to completely recode the website, redo the website for me, and now it has moved over to, I moved it over to Netlify, and it's costing me $5 a month. So I'm saving a ton of money there. And I already have other things on Netlify, so it's basically not costing me anything, I guess. Yeah. So we're going to call that a $400 savings a year. Next up, Fixer AI. Now, you guys might have heard me talk about Fixer AI. I love this thing. I love this software. It's so good. It helps to organize my inbox. So every email that comes in, it gives it a tag and a color code. It helps to prioritize the things that need my response versus things that are just an FYI for me. It actually has a little meeting assistant that can come to all of my meetings and then help write emails that give action items that I can send directly to clients. It helps draft responses to client emails. But it costs $29 a month. So that's over $300 a year. And I realized that, okay, I could probably build something with Claude and with the Gmail connector and with the Fathom connector that does exactly what Fixer does. And it took me an entire afternoon, but I did. I was able to do that with Fable 5. I knew that I wanted to replace Fixer and do all of the same things that it was doing, minus it would compose a draft email and put that actually in the thread and in my drafts for my email. And I hated that. I actually made the mistake once because it puts it as a draft, and I was checking my email on my phone away from my house, and I sent a response back real quick. And that draft, the AI generated draft, was in the thread that I ended up sending back. And thankfully it was to a colleague of mine, and we just laughed about it later, but I kind of hated that. So now not only am I saving $300 a year, but the version I built is better for me because it now drafts those replies and sends them to me in Slack. So I can go in there and copy and paste them and send them myself. Like it's one more extra step, but for me, it's so much easier that way and just works better for me. Third, my client management system. Now, I use Dubsado, but there's also Honeybook and Bonsai, and a lot of people have cobbled together different client management systems. It's part CRM. Now, this one is it's still a work in progress. I'm still hooking up the contract piece and the Stripe integration. But this one's one that's been on my mind for a while now, and I just didn't know how to do it until the Fable 5 preview. I knew that I wanted to replace Dubsado because about 6 to 8 months ago, they upped their price. They gave us plenty of advance notice, but it jumped from like $300 a year to $500 a year. And quite honestly, I only use about 20 to 30% of the Dubsado features. It's got a lot of cool stuff. I just don't use it. Like I don't use the client portal stuff. Anyway, I am almost done creating this thing and it's going to save me $500 a year. That's substantial money when you add all of this up. And I wanted to build this around how I actually work rather than trying to bend my process to fit someone else's software. And this is not to say that any of these softwares are bad. Obviously, they're not. It's been really cool to be able to hand over to AI, like, here is the problem. Here is my goal. And here's what I really need it to do. Now, you figure out how to build this thing. And in 2 out of these 3 cases so far, I've used Claude Code. The Fixer AI, I actually used Claude Cowork. But my new website and this Dubsado replacement, I'm using Claude Code. And it is so easy to use. I know it seems, if you're not a developer, if you don't have any coding experience, it can feel overwhelming. But I mean, maybe just try it out. Okay, moving on. These last 2, these are kind of just for fun. They're not really related to my business, but I wanted to share them anyway because it's not always business related what we use AI for. I have created, you'll have to nerd out with me for a second. I know that granny hobbies are in. I have an embroidery machine that I got from my mother-in-law as she was downsizing. And I love this thing, but it is a total pain in the ass to try and do custom designs with this embroidery machine. You either have to go to Etsy or you have to have like custom proprietary embroidery apps, and there's a zillion different softwares that go one for each type. So I've got a Janome machine. My sister has a Brother machine. Like it's different file types for the different types of machines. Sorry, I'm getting really inside baseball here, but it's not just like a sewing machine where you push the fabric through. Like it's the length of the stitch and the distance between the stitches and what type of stitches do you like. There's a whole bunch of different variables, we'll say. So I created an app where I'm using AI. I can create a design in Canva, export that design and put it into this app, and it will digitize the file specifically for the type of embroidery machine that you have. It helps to figure out how many different color threads you need, what type of stitch you should be using, and then it digitizes it and outputs it in a way that you can just stick the little USB drive in the side of your machine and you're good to go. I'm super excited about this. This one I'm actually planning to monetize. I think if I can beta test it and get it working, get it tested with a bunch of different types of machines, I could probably sell this. So it's really cool. The same skill set that is saving me money with the first 3 apps I talked about could also potentially make me some money. Building for yourself and building a product, it's the same muscle, it's the same AI. Finally, Number 5, this is the smallest one, and it took the least amount of time. I was on a 2-hour phone call with a friend and peer a few weeks ago, and I wanted to show him just how easy it was to build with Claude Code. So I built this in the background while we were having a full-on conversation. And the whole thing took less than our phone call was like 2 hours, but the whole thing, the build took less than an hour. And I built it for my book club. Basically, the problem we have is that all of us, we come across books all the time that we want to read. They're recommended to us, or we buy a copy and we're like, oh, I'll get to that later. I think everybody would love this. But then by the time we get together once a month and we've maybe had a glass of wine, we forget what those books are. So I created this app where anybody from my book club can log in. They can put the name of the book, like the name, the author, the genre. And then when we're all sitting around in somebody's living room, we can say, oh, we want to read a mystery. And it's going to pull up the mysteries and we can add them. And then it creates a little like spinny wheel and it will spin and tell us, this is the book that we're reading this month. And if we don't like that, you can spin again. So it just, yeah, the fact that I created this thing that now can be used by a dozen different women for us all to come together and find a book that we want to read. It's a teeny little, very niche problem that I was able to solve pretty simply. Could I have also solved this with a spreadsheet? Yes. Would that spreadsheet be cool and look pretty and be something that my book club babes might actually want to use? Meh, probably not. We've tried using a spreadsheet before and we had one person that kept track of it and the rest of us didn't. So hopefully I'll get back to you guys on whether we actually end up using it, but I can see that we've already had a few people add in some books this month. Wrapping up, I want to add up all of these savings. So $400 plus $300 plus $500 for those 3 apps. That's $1,200 a year at least in software that I no longer pay for. Now, if you were paying attention, my Claude Max subscription is $100 a month, which is $1,200 a year. So the things that I built during the Fable 5 preview with my Claude Max subscription, which now gives me access to Fable 5, it pays for itself. Exactly. And that's even before the embroidery app makes a single dollar. Now, I'm not telling you this to like brag about, oh, I built these cool things and I canceled these subscriptions. I'm telling you because AI is too expensive is one of the reasons that I hear people telling me that they're not diving in, that they are afraid that they're using too many tokens, they don't want to upgrade. And I just want you guys to see the other side of that ledger. Here's the thing that I want you to walk away with. Out of those 5 builds, the one that surprised me the most was the book club app because it's tiny. There's no revenue, no strategy, no ROI here. Like no one would ever build, no software company, no big software company with a bunch of dudes sitting around a conference room table in a glass office are ever going to build that because the market for that is too small. They can't justify the cost. The market is just me and 11 of my book club friends. And that's exactly why it matters. I want you to take this with you. So here's what I want you to take with you. The most revolutionary thing you can do with AI right now is to build something too weird, too small, and too you for anyone else to even bother. We've been spending years being told to find the scalable idea, the big market, the thing that works for everybody, right? Software has to serve thousands of people to justify its own existence. But that constraint is gone. You can build the thing that serves exactly one person, you. And it's worth it now. So stop waiting for a business case. What's the dumb little thing that would make your week or your life easier? And start with that one. If this got your wheels turning, or if you're sitting there with an idea and have no clue how to get started or what step 1 is, that's a great reason to sign up for my build-a-thon. This is live, it's hands-on, and you don't just leave with like notes and my slides. You're leaving with a working tool built for your business. I'll put the link in the show notes. Remember, it's aiqueens.com/build. And of course, keep coming back each and every week for more AI content from a perspective that doesn't treat this stuff like it's just for super technical people or for the bros, because this technology should be leveling the playing field, not leaving half of the room completely out of the conversation. I am so glad you're here. Go build something weird, and I'll catch you next week. Thanks for listening to the AI Queens podcast. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow queen who needs to hear this. Want more tools and tips? Join the AI Queens Society over at aiqueens.com and start ruling your business with confidence today. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep reigning with AI.